Okay, cool. So yeah, you'll have seen in like the coding scripts, you know, when you first got those coding scripts, you had to set up the directories, like the folder names and the folder paths to find certain things, like where the videos were, where the scripts are. So that's basically just a useful thing to do at the start, so we can define a folder, and that's what we can do here when we're grabbing files. We can just define the folder where we want to look for these files. So what I'm going to do is we can create, and it's no different, to be honest, to it's exactly the same as what's in the script. So if you can get your the folder thing for those matrices that I just sent you.
Yeah.
If you can just get that, that path, that'd be great. I just want to copy this. Actually, not the one that's copied this out. Great. Just let me know once you've found that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great. Bexy, have you got it?
Let's find it.
If you go into the folder on Windows, you can also right-click at the top where you've got all where it'll say like C drive, Bexy, whatever at the top, and you right-click and click copy address as text, and it will copy this whole path.
Okay.
I don't know if that helps.
Minimized it. Okay, I'm ready.
Cool. Great. I'm going to call this. I'm just going to call it session 8, but ignore that. Okay, so yeah, have you got in this path here? Oh, actually, you know what? End it with. Yeah, I'm going to end it with the slash here. It will save us having to type it off later. So I'm just going to end it. Make sure it ends there with the slash. So yeah, Bexy, yours will probably say like C drive, start with C drive something, right? And Crystal, yours probably starts with slash users.
Yeah, mine starts slash users.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, so yeah, we just need to. So all this is a string. This is just a character. It's just some text that we're just going to store as a variable. Okay, and it's our directory. So I'm just going to call it like matrix directory. So this is the same as what you see in the coding ones where it says script directory and stuff like that. Yeah. It says like scripts and movies directory, and it just has the directory. Okay, great. Okay, so now what we want to do, so basically the objective here is there's two things we need to do, right? One is we need to get all of the file names that are in this folder. And then the next step is to load all of the files in as their own matrix, right? Like we do normally where we load in one file and it's called like matrix. We're going to load in like how many we've got here, like 8 or 9 files and store them all. So we'll come on to like a new way of storing stuff in here. Okay, so this is all like some new new things here. So I'm just going to kind of tell you some of the stuff. But if we want to grab all the files from a directory, there's a function that's just called dir for directory, and basically you just put in that the location and the kind of, you can add a search term for the type of file that you want, and it will pull it all in. So we've got, well, we could actually just do that, couldn't we? We could just do matrix dir. I think that will work. I'm just going to call it files, okay, just so it like does all the files there. for now, I'm just going to put a breakpoint at this next line, so we can just test that this first bit works. So if you put a breakpoint wherever your next bit is, just put a breakpoint in there, and we can test that first bit. I just added a semicolon there. So that should, if you press play, it should create something. Should create something that looks a bit crazy when you open it. Or maybe not. Maybe yours won't look as weird as mine. Mine's got lots of stuff in there. Has it worked? Has it run and loaded stuff in?
Yeah, it does look a bit crazy.
Okay. Well, what other things have you got showing back to, apart from your file names?
Yeah, it looks the same as yours.
Okay. I guess you don't have these buttons too, because I don't think I sent you those.
Yeah.
And yeah, is yours similar, Crystal?
No, I've only got one.
Hmm.
You only got one file. Is that definitely the right folder?
Maybe not.
And you've opened the files though.
Mine only has 11 lines.
Yeah, that's okay. I've got some extra weird stuff.
Oh yeah. Huh.
Oh yeah, perfect. I got 14, but yeah.
Great. Okay, so can you see that this looks a bit, I don't know if you can notice this, but it looks a bit different to a normal, if I show you here a normal, actually I probably can't.
Yes, it's got like different field names and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And they've even got these different like symbols and things.
Yeah.
And even like in our workspace now, we've got these different symbols here. So the CH, I think, is a character matrix, probably a character. Yeah, it's a character thing. Oh, we've lost someone. So yeah, these just show different data types basically. So you've got character, CH is a character data type. We've got this checkbox character type. But yeah, so what this actually is, this isn't a matrix, this thing. This is called a structure. And what that does is it contains like related like containers of information that they're called fields. So like we're showing here our name, the folder where it is, the date, and you can basically make different columns and things. And you can access these different columns, these different fields by using a full stop. So if I can type it at the bottom. So if I type like matrix, so we've called this whole thing is called files, sorry. So if I do matrix dot name, and I press enter, it will show me all of everything that I've got in the name field of the files structure. Do you want to try that? Does that work on yours as well?
Yeah.
And then if you want the folder names, same thing, files.folder, and it shows you all the folder names in order going down that list. You can also, if you just want to pull out one of them, let's say I just want row 4 for me has one of the file names. So I could put files in brackets 4 dot name, and it will return the 4th one in that name field, that name column. Yeah, does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So because we can like call this specifically, so we've got this huge thing with lots of random stuff in it, but we're not really interested in any of this. We just want to load in all of these things. But the first thing we want to do actually is, you see on my one, and you've probably got some different things. I've got some stuff that just aren't the matrices. They aren't the matrices. Mm-hmm. So there's a way that we can, when we do this and we do this directory function, pull in. Currently, we're pulling in everything from this matrices folder, and that includes hidden files, and these are all hidden files, plus some other things I've got. But we just want to put in our matrix. Sorry.
Like your need redoing.
I need redoing, yeah. But yeah, so there's a way that we can be really specific with what we want to bring in. So we can use like a wild card, which is a, I'm trying to do this actually, which is a, so what we can do, sorry, is I want to specify, this is what we want to specify. So we know that every one, and all of our files that we want end in _ matrix.csv, right?
Yeah.
So we can use a wildcard, which is that asterisk, which just takes anything up to that, basically, allows anything up to that. So we know that that would match on all of those files. You could just do .csv actually, but I haven't, because I used to have some other CSVs in there, but that's why I've got matrix. But at least it will make sure it's one of the matrix files. So I just do that. And then basically what we want to do is we want to append that to the directory so that it ends up looking, when it runs what it's going to import, what types of files it's going to import, we want it to look kind of like this. It's going to kind of look like this. So it's going to import, or using the directory function, it's going to bring into this structure anything that's, so that's the path, and then it's like anything _ matrix. So I'm just going to keep that as it was. And the way that we can do that is in this directory function, we can, do you know the term concatenate?
Yeah.
So yeah, okay, so yeah, concatenate is just basically putting two things together or multiple things together. So if, like in Excel, for example, if you have 3 columns and it says Bexy, Crystal, Dean, if you concatenate the 3 columns, it will turn it into one string that says Bexy, Crystal, Dean with no gaps. It will just be Bexy, Crystal. It concatenates it, so it just pushes everything together. So what we want to do is we want to concatenate the directory, which is this, and this bit of text here, and use the directory function to bring in all of that stuff. So I suppose we could have shortcutted, done it in one line, but this just looks neater. Okay, so we can do directory. There's a string concatenating function to concatenate character strings. So it's just that, it's strcat, string cat. And we would put it in here. So in the directory thing, we can do string cat. And then what we want to do is we want to concatenate our matrix directory. And then at the end of it, we want this thing to go in there at the end. Does that make sense, like conceptually, what it's doing? So we're doing a string concatenation of this string and this string. And then we are doing the directory function on that full string, which will grab all the files that meet this criteria. And we're going to store them in files. And because of the way the directory function works, it pulls in all this information. So it will go in as a structure like this. So you might need to press, if you're still running, if it's still on run, by the way, you might need to press quit debugging before running again. Does that work?
Yeah.
I've got 0 times 1 struct.
Nice. You've got this, you got the asterisk.
Mm-hmm. What have I wrote this wrong here?
You got the slash at the end of the directory.
No.
There you go. Nice.
Yeah, there we go.
Nice. I think when they do them in the coding things, actually, just to show, it's actually quite nice to see the real life examples of this. I just open one of them.
Can only see your Matlab screen, by the way, right now.
Yeah, no, can you see my hand coding? I'm in the hand coding one. So yeah, so they've done it here, but what they've done, they don't put that final thing on any of them. So actually what they have to do later on here, they do that string, they literally do that, the string concatenate, the movies directory, then they put the slash in, and then they concatenate the file name from a struct called files. So it's that, the file name. I don't know what happens actually if I just run that f name. Oh yeah, because I've set what that is. So I don't know what the files thing is.
That just seems like a really.
Oh, it's here. Files equals 1. Okay, I think that's from an old script when they were probably processing multiple. So f name 1 will just bring back the first value of f, this matrix f name. And then they're adding .csv onto that. So we could have added. Oh, is that saving? Is that saving? Is that a save name? Yeah, sorry, they're adding save the .csv onto that. But when they're loading them, yeah. So the reason they've done that is, you don't have to write left and right on the infant one. When you load in 2 cameras, do you do that as well in yours, Crystal, when you sync? So we load in 2 infant cameras, the left and the right camera, but the file name is _left and _right at the end here. But when we put it in the top, we don't include that. Because we actually want it later. The code then does both of these for us. So here it concatenates movie 1, concatenates the directory, adds the slash, file name, and then puts the _left and sets that as movie 1, and then movie 2 gets set as the _right. And those are the 2 things. So yeah, that's just a real life example of that being used. And so yeah, string concatenate. It's cool. So we have a struct with 9. We should have 9 rows. These names, yeah. Okay, great. Okay, so what we want to do now is we need to load these in. We want to load these files in, and we want to put those loaded files somewhere. So the beauty of the struct thing, is it doesn't only store characters and numbers and things, it can also store matrices inside it. So like these actual cells here, you could then double click on them and go into a matrix. So it's almost like a folder in a way. Like it's almost like a folder that, if you want to think of it that way, that contains some other stuff, but it can contain any data. I think it can contain any data type from what I understand. So it can contain matrices. So we don't need, it's not going to like create in our workspace like 100 matrices. It would all just be nicely in this one little thing. Yeah. And what's nice about that, it means if you think about the way we normally do stuff in MATLAB, we're using for loops to run through rows. So if we want to iterate on all of these files, if all of these were already like the matrices, we could just run through each one. You throw a for loop around everything that just runs through each matrix and that's it, and it's done. So that's what we need to create now, is that a new struct.
Okay.
We'll create a new one of these that will contain these matrices. Okay. Yeah. So, right. Trying to remember how I did this myself. Okay. So what do we want to? If we think that we want to create a new struct. Okay. So, and we're gonna load all of these names into that. All of these files into that. Yeah. So.
For loop?
Yeah, for loop, great, because we want to loop through each of these rows. So how do we normally, so let's look at our normal code here. So this is our normal code for loading in a file, right? And storing it as a matrix. But what we're going to do now is we're going to load in this value as a string. It's just a string value. It's no different to this 21 thing. It's just that it's up here instead. It's inside this files thing. So we're going to load in this, and we're going to store it. And we're going to store it somewhere, and then we're going to load in this one, and then we're going to load in this one, and then we're going to load in this one, etc., etc. Does that make sense? Yeah, Bex, if that
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah.
It's a bit yeah, maybe it's a bit abstract maybe. But it's okay, so let's just use our normal load thing that we normally understand. So we're going to load in. Now what I've started to do, which I think is really useful, is so you don't have to worry about what folder you're in on here. Like, you got your folder open. And it asks you like change folder or add to path and all of that sort of stuff. If you're in a folder. So you don't have to worry about that. We can actually just tell it exactly where to go, exactly what to load in. So yeah. So let's say we want to load in number 7, this one, the 17.1 Nat1C. Any ideas of how we can load that in, including with the full part, so we don't have to change our folder? Any ideas of how we could load that in? So you're not going to do? What? I'm going to check. Sorry, go on.
I was going to say, so to do sort of find what the column,
yeah,
the row column is of that. So one.
Yeah. So what's the name of this struct? How do we? Well, let's do one thing first. Actually, let's just do one before that. Actually, let's do one step before that. How would I load in this 17.1 file? How would we load that in manually, without accessing this thing? How would we just load that in like normal?
So just make a name and say equals load.
Okay, which is this down here, right?
Yeah.
So let me okay, I'm just going to take this one and we'll change it to 17, just to use the top one as an example. Okay, and how would I do if I didn't want to, let's say I'm not in the right folder, let's say I'm in here and I run this, and I don't want this to come up, I don't want it to keep changing. I want to actually get exactly to this file on my computer. What can I do to get the full path with the full folder names, all the path?
Or the matrix dir.
Yeah. And how do I push them together? The matrix dir and the
cat thing.
Yeah. Yeah, the string cat. So we can
string cat, yeah.
String cat. That should be a meme, shouldn't it? If
Sounds like a cartoon.
Yeah, exactly. If I run now, it should be an Exploding Kittens card. I don't know if you've ever played Exploding.
No.
So if I run this now, it won't ask me to change folder because I'm telling it. Oh, it is asking me to change folder. Oh, that's for the file. Oh, right. Sorry, that's for the file. Sorry, that's for the session file. Yeah. Okay. Cool. But now, so what's useful of this is now your files don't have to be in the same folder as your session file, if that makes sense. I used to have all these files and everything in the same folder, and it just gets a bit long. So now you can have, I've got this separate folder now where I put the matrices, and you can now just, do that. And then it means if you move stuff around, other things around, it doesn't matter. So we are loading, let's say we're going to load this, but we're not loading this, right? So we're going to load, how do we load this one up here? Let's say whatever is in that first cell, how do we load that?
So 1,1, but you have to do, should it be load, open bracket, files, open bracket, then 1,1, then close brackets.
So I'm going to put this because we're still going to take this string value and we're going to concatenate it on the end of this one. So yeah, so files 1.1. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, that's it.
I don't know if that's going to work. It might work. No, okay. Hang on, maybe I'm missing a. No, I think we're good. Sorry, I'm just missing a bracket.
Yeah, you're missing a, yeah.
We got an error here. Inputs must be character vectors, cell arrays of character vectors, or string arrays. Error. There's an error here. So we use this sort of stuff we use for matrices, for a matrix, but this isn't a matrix. This is something else. This is a struct. So do you remember what we were typing down here before? How do we access?
Oh, like
Column.
files dot.
Sorry?
Files dot.
Files dot. Yeah, we did this dot thing to access a particular column.
Files, open brackets, 1, close brackets.
Nice.
Point name, dot name.
Perfect.
Name.
Nice, great. So it works. So now I have a thing called matrix here, and it is just that one matrix. Because we've only done it once. We've only done it on the first one. Nice.
Really weird.
Yeah, really good. Nice. Nice. Okay, and now here's a little test. Oh, I'll wait till you've done that actually, because that'd be useful to write as our first bit. Let me know when you've got that written.
Okay, let's take this bit out.
You got it?
Yeah. Let's see.
Nice. How's yours going, Kristen?
I have this really weird comment. I can't even. It's like
An error.
unable to read file U. Those U's SERSCYST. Oh, it's like I think it's spelling my name out, but really just put 100 letters in for each one. It says file name too long. Matrix, everything's and then.
And your files, if you look in your files struct, that first one just says this.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you got files1.name.
Yep. I've obviously done something.
Yeah.
Right? But
yeah.
Just share your screen.
Okay, I'm just gonna quickly share it. I've obviously just done something and I just can't see it.
Do you want to share it or?
Yeah.
I'm just going to quickly pop to the loo.
Okay. Whoa, what is that?
This is my comment.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, wait, let's have a look. I know what it is.
What have I done?
And it's interesting because I don't know, I've seen it somewhere else, but you've you've left one of the quotation marks, that apostrophes in line 8. I can't remember what that does though. It does something.
Oh, like this?
Yeah, because we're referencing the variable, not
Is that why we did that?
Yeah.
Fuck me.
That'll work.
All right, all good.
Nice. I wonder what that does actually. It does something.
Does something add on 1,000 letters to each of this?
Yeah.
No, it's all good then.
Get back. Oh wait, let me.
All right. Thanks for that, Dean. When you're looking for ages and you're like, I just can't find it.
It does something. I don't know what it. Matlab. What's it even called, that thing? Apostrophe.
Apostrophe, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, it does something.
I wish it like would highlight exactly, what it's doing.
Oh, it does actually say like column, which is weird. And I think column is like the character number.
Ah.
Across. It normally says like a column. Can you see? Is it still? I know you cleared the.
No, I would just
put it back. Put it back.
put it back in and see. Yeah.
Yeah, I can do it here as well. Right, it does it on mine. Yeah, so I know it doesn't say it. It just says line 6. Oh, unable to read file. Yeah, I wonder what it's doing there. That's interesting.
I don't know, but I don't like it. It's very scary.
Yeah. Now, what's nice with this bit of code at the top is you can just copy and paste it into all the others, and anything else to do, which is a useful snippet.
Back again.
Yeah.
Okay, we fixed it. Okay, so what we've done is we've loaded in a file that is a string concatenation of our directory, and then the first value of our name field in our files struct, which is this, which is a string value. And it's loaded it in and called it matrix. So when we open matrix, we've now got our fields. So do you remember I mentioned that we could, instead of, like when we have these structs, we can actually store matrices in these cells. So that's what we want. We want like 9 rows where we can then double click. So instead of us storing this as its own matrix, how would we store it in a struct called matrix, but that's in a field? We've got a field which is a column called name, and in the first position. How would we store it inside another cell, if that makes sense? Maybe it'll make sense once you see it. So at the moment we're storing it as its own matrix, but we want to store it as a matrix within, maybe calling it matrix is a bit confusing, but within something. So how do we reference a field inside a struct?
Doing the dot.
Yeah, dot. So let's say we want to call it, and this is us declaring the variable. So we want to call it, let's call it name, we can call it name again. You can call it whatever you want. And then what do we do if we want to put it in the first space, the first index, the first space of that? What do we do? Where do we put the 1?
After it, like, or into like.
For the dot.
Yeah, it's before the dot. I don't know what the logic is of that, but yeah, it's like we do here, where we took this first one, like maybe it's like the first index of files is this whole first row, and then we're taking the name column, taking the name thing, right? So it's the same. So we can store this in a struct, which is called matrix, and it has a field called name, and we're putting it in that first row. So if you run, I don't actually know if it's going to work. It should work. So you should see in your works, if you run that, if you do that, you'll see that it's called a struct on the right. And now if you open it, it looks very different to what you had before. But you can double click on this thing, on the 19,000 whatever. You can double click on that first one. It's almost like a folder, and we've called all the things inside it name. Yeah. So so that's just the way that is. So I think you said it before, but like we've now done this for the first one. So see if you can figure out how to do a for loop to go through each of these rows. Do you want to? Yeah. Do you want to try it? So remember. So I'm just going to give you a couple. I'm going to give you a couple of this. I'll put a for and I'll put an end. And remember that what we do here in the start of a for loop is we create a range from like 1 to something, and we declare that as some sort of variable name. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's, for example, a range. And then what we do is every time we loop through, we need to change something in here to the variable name, and it will set the number. Yeah. So at the moment we've hard coded some values. We've hard coded row 1 for each of these things. So that's the thing we're going to change each time because we want to go through. So yeah, see if you can work out what to do, how to change that. Does that make sense? What to do?
Yeah. Sorry, I'm just dying again. I did not realise that my microphone was on in that lab session. Then I tried to breathe in some water, then I was just like dying.
Floating on the water. I do that sometimes, just forget how to drink.
Yeah.
Very difficult.
I read something today, it's on a poster in the baby lab that says for like the first, I think it's 3 months, I can't remember, 3 or 6 months, babies can breathe in while they're swallowing.
That's really cool.
Really. Maybe that's why they're always like choking or like.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. Cool. How's that gone?
So
The hard bit is, yeah, you guys can do it.
for like whatever the variable name we're going to use.
Yeah. What have you called it?
Well, right now I had like column, but
Okay.
that's like a good name to have. So
A bit long.
yeah.
All right. I'm going to call it file, I guess. I'm just going to call it file because we're going to get our files. Okay. And what have you got as the range?
1 and then comma. And I don't know, I can't remember if it's comma end, like the end of the length, or length.
So a good way to test it out is because you've already got these things up in your workspace, you can actually try these things out in the command window at the bottom. So you could do like, oh, you can't. Can you do end? How would you do that? What have we got? No, it's a struct, isn't it? A matrix at the moment. So end gives you that. Yeah. So you could use end. I wonder what. So there's also this one.
Yeah, length.
There's also length to give the same value. It's just that they go the other way around to each other. That's all. But yeah, sorry, you don't need to write matrix name in there. Oh wait, hang on. Yeah, okay. Sorry, it's the files thing, isn't it? It's this one. Sorry, it's this one, isn't it? So we wanted the length of this one, don't we?
Yeah.
Sorry. So length of files gives you that, and files end Oh, I guess do something crazy.
So maybe do
Yeah,
that.
so you can't use the end with the struct.
So yeah, 1, length brackets files.
So you've got that.
And then need to change the 1 in that, like in these, because that's related to file.
Yeah.
Now.
So that's the whole thing that's going to change each time. So it's going to start at 1 and then it's going to go all the way down and do the same thing. So what's interesting, because what it's going to do is it's going to take from this files thing, it's going to take number 1 to start with, and it's going to put it into our first row of our new struct called matrix under the field name. And then when it does the second one, it's also going to go in the second position. So we're just using this file to mean 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
Yeah.
Bexy, any comments on the crystals code?
Do we have to get it to like add 1 at some point so it goes to the next line, or like this literally just going to loop? It's like,
loop. Yeah,
yeah, I think we only add 1 if we want it to go to another column, don't we? Like we put an extra bit of code somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we've used add 1 for a couple of different reasons. We've done it here when we wanted to literally add every time it goes through and finds an extra instance of the code going from 0 to 1. We literally just wanted to add a value of 1 onto whatever number we had. And then this one is because we did something weird with our index. That wasn't related to like what we're going through. It's a bit different to what we're doing here. We were doing something to another table, and we needed to move it on each time. Whereas a for loop will automatically run from the first value all the way up to whatever the last value is, and it will just loop through and change the value each time. So it will do whatever it needs to do in here, and then the value will go up. So you don't need to add any +1s. It does it automatically in this range.
Okay.
Is there anything you can note? Anything that you want to change?
I thought that you'd put a colon instead of a comma, so it'd be 1 colon.
Yeah, I put colon.
Yeah, that's the one. Sorry.
I put colon. Sorry.
Oh right. Sorry. Yeah. Great. Yeah, so that's it. Nice. Great. That was still a good test anyway. Nice. Great. And that is it. It will run through. So for 1, so the length of files is 9. So it will go from 1 to 9. And what's nice about this is now when you add more file in your computer, if you add more matrix files, it doesn't matter if you have 300 in there, it will go from 1 to 300, and it will go through each one, and it will concatenate that file path, the folder path, and the 1 to 300, up to the 300th in the list of files which it would have brought in here. It would have brought in all 300 here, and it will assign it in the correct row for our new one. So if you run that, I've got a breakpoint down here just so it doesn't run the rest. But if you run that and now look at your matrix, you've got a new thing called matrix. And that makes sense when you look at it. Now it looks proper. It looked a bit weird before. So now what we've got, it's kind of like a folder in a way, what we've kind of created. So now we've created this thing, and this contains all of our matrices in the same order that you can literally open any of them. And it says here matrix 5. When you open one, you get this like matrix 5 name. Yeah,
that's really cool.
Yeah, it's really cool.
So I clicked on the file, what's it called, document, and it only had like the number 9. I was like, doesn't look right.
Yeah, that is right. It's because I'll tell you. Do you know why it's the number 9?
So it's got 9 lines.
Yeah. But I'll tell you what, to show you why it's 9, if you keep it open, if you open it and then put a breakpoint here on your end, by your end, in the for loop, what it will do is it will pause every time it does the loop, so you can keep pressing continue, and just press quit debugging, just if you've got it showing. Just so you use
Okay.
it. Now, if you keep pressing continue, what happens to that? What happens to that file value?
It goes up one each time.
Yeah. So you're basically doing this. Like, that's what you're doing here. You know, this for loop where it goes up, it runs the loop, and then it changes the number. So all you're doing there is you're watching that variable called file. You're just watching it change on each iteration.
Okay.
Because the last one here is 9, it just stays at 9. It just stays at 9 until we do something else with it. If we want to do something else with it later, you can. But it'll stay.
Okay.
That's why it shows at 9, because it shows the final value from the for loop.
That's good.
Yeah, does that make sense?
Yeah.
Great, nice. So yeah, so we now have this thing. I'm sorry, wrong one. This thing called matrix, which actually has all of these things in now, which is pretty cool.
It's really cool.
Yeah, it is. Okay. We're gonna have time to. What is this one actually? What did we do here? This is.
Did you say you had to go in a few minutes?
I've got like 7 or 8 minutes.
Okay.
I'd really like to. What is this? This is. What did we do here on session 6? Was it? Oh, it was the difference, wasn't it?
Yeah. The amount of looks.
Yeah. Okay, so let's just do this for. Let's do the amount of looks to. Let's do the amount of looks from the baby to the mum and the mum to the baby. Okay. So something. So remember this column array thing we used was to we were using that to kind of show which columns we wanted to look at. So what do we need to change that to? If we just want to look at infant to the mum and mum to the infant, which column? What do we need in our column array? What one should we going to use?
1, 1 and 4, and then whatever the next ones are that relate to that. What's the next one? 8 and.
Yeah. So I mean, obviously we're using different things on it, but yeah. So we don't need 1. 1 is looking at toy 1 for our 1.
Oh, 1's looking at toy 1.
Yeah, but 4, you're right. So 4
then.
is the partner, and then 11. You can add 7. 11 is the mum looking to the infant in our thing. So if we just take 4 and 11 for this. So what we're going to do now is we're going to create something like this. We're going to create something like this where we've got the participant number. Participant number, we might have to do that next time. And the number of, and we'll do the number of infant looks to mum and the number of mum to infant. We'll just do them as frame numbers for now. So what do we need to do? If we want to create a table at the start, what are we going to use now? How many columns do we need firstly?
2. No. 3. Sorry, I can't count.
Right. So we're going to need to add, depending on number of participants, we're going to have to it's going to have to work out how many it puts in later on. So actually, you can actually just start it with 1 row, and then later on, if I just do that, it will just do this. So it starts with 3 zeros. But what we'll do is we'll get it to add to the end. We'll get it to add the next one to the end. Have I done this? Have I done frequency? Yeah, I have. Okay. All right, let's do that. So the first thing we can. Oh, this just might get a bit tricky. Okay, so we've got a column array. So we're going from 1 to the end in our column array. So that's going. It starts at a 4 and then it does 11. So it runs. Col is 4 the first time round, and then it's 11 the second time round. And it's going to look. It then creates. We go through all the rows of a matrix. So whatever our full matrix is, with like 20,000 rows, it goes from row 1 up down to the end -1, and then it looks through it. And if there's a difference in that matrix between whatever that row is and the next row, if there's a difference of 1 for that column, then it adds a number up, adds a number. So now instead of adding the number to, well, we are going to add it to here, but we need to add it to a different location. Yeah, we need to add it to a different location, and this matrix thing is going to change because it's no longer called matrix, right? Because matrix is now this struct, so it won't really know what to do. So, yeah. So instead of matrix, what are we now looking at? So how do we get one of these? How do we open one of these now? What do we do? How do we open one of these? And we've literally just done this, kind of what we just did above in line 6. It's kind of what we just did here. But like, so instead of it being matrix, what is it? How do we open this, reference this first one inside a struct?
Oh, isn't it matrix dot something?
Yeah.
Dot, like name.
Yeah, it's dot name because that's the name of this field here. That's the name of this column.
Yeah.
And if we want just the first one?
You put matrix, open brackets 1, close brackets, dot name.
Great, that's it. I'm just going to change all of those. Yeah, so there's 2 of them. Okay. And now what you want to, sorry. And then if you want to loop, so like what we just did before, we did that before, we actually changed this to 1 name and then we looped through. So we actually need to loop through. So how many have we got? How many of these matrix files are there?
9.
We've got 9 at the moment, but it could be 300, 500, whatever. So instead of having a 1 here, we need to use a variable again. So what kind of thing do we need to put all of this in? Yeah. So if you, by the way, if you highlight the whole chunk and press tab, you can jump like that, or shift and tab goes back. So I just indent it with a tab, and then I put a 4 at the top and an end at the bottom. Okay. So what's our range? So we're going 1 to 9, okay? It's our range. So how do we do that? How do we do 1 to 9?
Do you do 1 to length, like 1?
Yeah, 1 to length. And what are we finding the length of?
Matrix dot name.
Yeah, I think you could also just do matrix. I think it'll be the same, to be honest, because matrix is probably also 9. I think they'll both be 9. Oh no, that didn't work. Okay, that doesn't work. Interesting. Okay, so it's got to be matrix, just length of matrix. Just name it. So it's actually, that makes sense, I guess. It's the length of the struct, which is called matrix. Okay, and then we need to put a variable in there. Call it whatever you want. You could,
Letter or something.
sorry?
Just like a letter.
Yeah. Should we go for an I?
Yeah.
Okay, for I equals, so it's going to go 1 to 9. So now instead of us hard coding the first row, we're just going to do whichever one it's on. So we're going to change both of those 1s to I's.
Mm-hmm.
But now we need to change this frequency table thing, I think. So let's imagine we are looking at the first one. Where do we want this frequency table? We want the answer. So we're adding up all of the looks of the, let's say in column 4 and column 11. this is a really tricky question, but we need to put something in these brackets that's a bit different. Basically, we need to get it to go into here. So this is frequency table, and it's column 2. We're going to put the participant number in here next time. But column 2, we need to get a 2, and the row needs to be whichever. The row is easy because the row is actually going to be I. Because if we're doing matrix 1, the first matrix in the thing, we want all the answers to go in here. So we want participant number, and we want the number of looks and the number of looks. So for both of these, it's actually going to be I, comma, and then we need a column.
4.
Sorry?
Yeah, going to be 4 or 11.
Before 11, great. How do we reference 4 and 11? Well, no, so okay, it's not going to go in column 4 and column 11.
No, it's going to go in column 2 or column 3, depending. So 4 will always go in column 2, and 11 will always go in column 3.
Great. And if I added this and this would go into column 4, and that would go into column 5. Just as you'll see, this will make it basically. We can reuse this code. So yeah, so yeah. So every time it loops through, it needs to move across by 1 column. So when it does the 4, it needs to go in here, and then when it does the 11, it needs to go here. So we can't actually use this value, but what can we use? Have we got something else? What can we see if you can figure out what we use? It's a bit of a tricky one. We've actually got the variable in there already. We've got a for loop that's already using another variable.
Is it X?
It's not. We're actually going to delete X. I don't think we need X now. I think
Okay.
X.
Col, isn't it?
It's col. Yeah. So col is currently going. Sorry, no, it's not col. It's not col. Col. Is it col? No, because col is 4, and col will be 4, and then it'll be 11. But we need the numbers 2 and 3. It's a really hard one.
Would it be like 1,2 somewhere?
Yeah, I'm just thinking. I think there's a few ways to do it. So, hang on. Yeah, col will be 4, won't it, in that first? Yeah, col's going to be 4. So we don't want it to be 4. We want it to be a 1 the first time round. So we could actually. Oh, sorry, I'm getting a bit confused myself. Because it's the index of col array that we want. Oh shit, I really need to go because I've got this thing.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
So we can try and figure it out, and then.
Yeah.
Cool.
Could be our homework for next time.
We can actually. I think we can use X. I think you can use X. Let me put X plus. Yeah, I think you can use X and use X plus 1 because X will start at 1. So if we put X plus 1, or you can start X at 2, but let's start at 1 because we'll use it for column 1 next time. So yeah, I think you could put X plus 1. And it will jump to number 2, and then the next second time it will make it. Yeah, it will make it 3. No, obviously not. Oh, it has done something, but it's also given an error. I'll find it. I'll figure it out. Oh, sorry. Yeah, we'll carry it on next time. You can have a play if you want. I'll try and figure. I'll try and figure it out and send it to you, so we don't wait a whole week until we get that bit.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
Are we able to do a later time next week, like maybe from 6, just as I'm supposed to be working, technically.
Actually better for me. I can't do earlier next week, so yeah.
We could do like Friday or something.
Oh right, sorry. I'm free. I really need to go because I'm 5 minutes late for this call.
Yeah, go.
Okay,
We'll
don't worry. We'll sort it out through WhatsApp.
Okay. All right.
Thank you, Dean.
Okay.
All right.
Thanks, Beck.